power, whether red or blue. They could not care less about Texas, me and you. They created this give me country that don't value hard work. For a Texan to survive, all we need are some seeds and dirt. Texan rise, don't you hear your call? Got to save your country, for it's long gone. Texan rise, don't you hear your call? Got to save your country, for it's long gone. We believe in family and we value our community. Gladly lend a helping hand to a neighbor in need. And we don't believe that government should provide for all of society's needs. No, it's the pride of a Texan to give to others voluntarily. Texan rise, don't you hear your call? Gotta save your country, for it's long gone. Texan rise, don't you hear your call? Gotta save your country, for it's long gone. They like our tax dollars and they love our natural resources. They don't want to see us driving trucks, they'd rather see us riding horses. And now they want to ban our guns, you know, especially the ones that look scary. But may I remind you of the Gonzales Cannon and the Alamo heroes we buried. Texan rise, don't you hear your call? Got to save our country, for it's long gone. Texan rise, don't you hear your call? Got to save our country, for it's long gone. This last verse is straight from the Texas Constitution, Article 1, Section 1 and 2. Look it up. Texas is an independent state, yet presently we suffer. We no longer possess the right to locally self-govern. And now it's time as a people in which all political power is inherent. And in such manner we find expedient, we reform or abolish our government. I said, Texan rise, don't you hear your call? Got to save your country, for it's long gone. Texan rise, don't you hear your call? Got to save your country, for it's long gone.
Well, good evening, fellow Texians. It's me, Daniel Miller, and it is time for the weekly late night coffee talk. And man, lucky y'all. I'm glad I'm able to do this. I have, you guys may have heard last Wednesday when I was on and kind of doing the unpack of the election. Man, I started getting into a little coughing fit, and it's been kind of allergy head cold thing going on. So I have been on the decongestant train every day since then, and I think I'm copacetic. I think I'm going to be able to make it through. I got my coffee, and we're going to do this tonight. And look, before we get started, let's go ahead and knock out a few little pieces of housekeeping. If you're watching us on YouTube, any of the YouTube channels, be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you'll know exactly when we go live. And then, of course, if you are on Facebook, be sure to, like, comment, share, and back on YouTube, chat on both YouTube and Facebook are live, and the the TNM YouTube channel, Super Chat is active. So chat if you want to throw a little coin in the coffers to help us continue to get the message of Texas independence out there. Feel free to do that via Super Chat. 100% of the proceeds go to the TNM. And then, of course, all the other channels that we're on do those sorts of things. Chat aggregates over here. So tonight, you are going to be an integral part of what we talk about. You're going to drive the majority of the conversation. Yeah, I got some things I want to decompress on because, again, this is my weekly decompress. But beyond that, I want to hear what you've got to say. What's on your mind? What is concerning you? So be sure to drop it there in chat on any of the Facebook pages that we're broadcasting on, as well as YouTube chat, either channel. They show up over here, and I'm looking forward to hearing what you got to say. All right. That being said, let me send a very special thank you to Carlton, who is providing the coffee this week. He got some blackout coffee. These guys, fresh roasted coffee, 2A Guns and Gadgets. Carlton sent this in to us, and he sent this wonderful letter, this note, and I'm going to read a little bit of it to you. He says, Daniel, I'm giving you the bag of coffee from Blackout Coffee. Jared of Guns and Gadgets is part owner and has a Second Amendment YouTube show. He gets a little back for his show. I enjoy your late night coffee talk, and I wanted to help out in that part of the show. I'm sorry you did not win the lieutenant governorship, but whatever you do, I will be with you. And then he goes on to say that it looks like we'll be under Washington, D.C. yet for some time or now. I think that the people who voted for them were brainwashed or brain dead. I'm wanting TEXIT so bad I can taste it. And he goes on to say, if I could flip this page here, he says, I hope you enjoy your coffee. May God bless you, your family. God bless the TNM family, and God bless Texas, your friend always, Carlton. So, Carlton in Garland, salute. Here's to you. Thank you so much for the coffee. Thank you for your friendship and your support and your passion for Texas independence. I'm gonna enjoy this coffee. Look, we're like 2 minutes in, and I'm already like half down on this cup. I'm not going to pretend like I didn't start a little bit ahead, but I'm just, I'm down to half a cup. So more coffee than talk tonight, or more talk than coffee. Let's go for balance, right? All right. So let's talk about news of the day. Let's talk about some of the big things that have happened since last coffee talk. Obviously, we have continued to work the election issues. There is a discussion about some legal action that we are going to participate in, but I cannot talk about that any further. And then we had, of course, the announcement yesterday that State Representative Kyle Biederman has officially joined the TNM's advisory board. He'll be advising us on legislative issues, and we are so glad to have Kyle on board with a seat at the table, officially advising the organization on the things that, just giving us his insight and his from his time and experience in the Texas legislature. So he's going to be an invaluable addition to the advisory board, and very excited to welcome Kyle onto the TNM's advisory board. And then, of course, today, this afternoon, a nice big announcement was made. We teased it a little bit for the district directors Sunday, but not telling them specifically what was going on. We had to get the final pieces in place. But as of today, the Texas Nationalist Movement has officially launched an election integrity task force. The director of the election integrity task force is going to be a good friend to the TNM. You guys know him. He was my campaign manager for the lieutenant governor's race. He's been on the TNM advisory board for many years now, and that's Claver Kamau. Claver has been working these issues as part of Raging Elephants, and then with the Raging Elephants Radio, and then of course in his work in the TNM and on the campaign, both in his race for HD 138 a couple of years back, and then of course during this campaign, and he has not stopped working since the day of the election on this issue. So this launch of this election integrity task force is going to be huge. Claver's connected with so many subject matter experts on this issue. And as I said in both the news release and on social media, if you are one of those people who put your thumb on the scales of the election or broke the law, we're going to find you, we're going to expose you, and we're going to punish you. And that's not a threat, that is an absolute promise. But it's more than that. Not only are we going to be bringing in some of the best analysts and investigators to investigate what happened and all of the reports that we've gotten and are still getting related to this previous election, we are going to be taking some proactive steps to network with other organizations across the state that are as concerned about this as we are. We're going to put together subject matter experts, and we're going to try to get together in lockstep and defeat these guys. And the TNM has a plan to make sure that this never happens to us again. And so part of the election, the work of the Election Integrity Task Force is going to be to provide the training that we're going to need for the literal army of volunteers that we're going to need to make this happen. Additionally, the Election Integrity Task Force is going to be collecting the information to help us craft the ideal election integrity legislation moving forward in 2023. So it's going to be a major step in the right direction. However, that step in the right direction really depends on you, right? Claver can't do it by himself. No task force can do it by themselves. Daniel Miller can't do it by himself, right? It's going to take all of you, right? It's going to take every single one of you to participate in this and give 100%, because if you don't, then effectively what you're saying is you are totally cool with what just happened, right? You're totally cool with having greater than 100% turnout in voting precincts, or watching candidates lose votes, or having county election administrators blatantly and bald-faced break the law with no repercussions or no consequence. So, that's it. I mean, I'm not going to sugarcoat it for you. I'm not going to powder your butt. I'm not going to tell you that, if you want to go back and, go back to your life and of shaking your fist at the TV and, all that, and just complaining about the issue, that it's all going to magically resolve itself. Bottom line is that if you want this done, you got to be a part of helping get it done. And if you don't help to get it done, then what you're effectively telling us is you're totally cool with everything coming out of Washington, D.C., any brokenness we have in our election system. And, sorry, there are no excuses. This is either important to you or it's not. And we're going to be able to tell, right? The scripture says, by their fruits, you will know them, right? And the fruits that we're talking about is the fruits of your labor, right? If you're going to participate and you're going to give it all, then we're going to know that you're serious. And if you decide you want to quit and curl up in a ball and suck your thumb, then well, that's going to send a message too, right? Sometimes deciding to do nothing is a decision in and of itself, and tells us everything we need to know. So look, we need you. We absolutely must have as many hands on deck as we can possibly get. The numbers that are going to be required to execute what we're trying to execute are going to be staggering. So, as I said last week, right? As I said last week, get some perspective, get mad, and get serious. That's what's got to happen, right? The perspective is that we can beat this. We can win this. But it's going to take a certain set of things to happen for us to win. It's amazing. When I wrote this book, I literally put a section in here of the things that are holding TEXIT back, right? People say, why is it taking so long? I literally spelled it out about the things that were keeping us If we have a majority of the people of Texas that are ready for this to happen, what is the roadblock? And we can scapegoat and blame it on the legislature, but who puts the legislature there? And, you can make an excuse and say, oh, well, we can't get good legislators because the elections are rigged. But if there's a way to overcome that and we don't do that, then what does that say? Right? If we're not willing to do the things necessary to get to where we need to be, then what does that say? I'm willing. The rest of the T&M folks are willing, right? We just need more hands on deck. So let's get that. It's funny, man. I can guarantee I'm gonna get hate mail just from being a hard butt right there. I guarantee I'm gonna get hate mail. That's cool because I too have a trash folder in my email, and I have like a physical trash can. So if you hand write out garbage, I can throw it in there. It's fun. Mm. So anyway, what I'm going to recommend is that if you are ready to help out with this effort, you need to head over to tnm.me/volunteer. That's tnm.me/volunteer. You know, browsers allow multiple tabs. Go open a tab right now. Go to tnm.me/volunteer and stick your hand in the air. Tell us you're ready to help us fix the situation because that's what needs to go down. Also, we finally got information out, and I didn't get much of a chance to talk about it last week, just in passing. And there's actually an article on the website about it. We're still having some positive kind of feedback and fallout from the visit that we had in New Hampshire, right? So, as I told you guys before, day after Election Day was Texas Independence Day. TNM had a tent at Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo. And then the next day, I was on a flight headed to New Hampshire to participate in a panel discussion at this event called the Liberty Forum. And from that, and one announcement, I'll spoil it here, but there at the event on the panel was Stephen Axelman, who is the founder and chairman of Americans United for Peaceful Separation, basically forming an umbrella for independence movements throughout, and just a good connection mechanism. And many of you who have been listening to me for a long time have heard me talk about a similar effort that we tried with Dr. Thomas Naylor from Vermont many, many, many years ago before he passed away. And so Stephen is carrying the torch. He has started this process of creating this, not necessarily an umbrella organization, but a framework for independence movements around the United States and maybe even some outside to begin the process of connecting and communicating and doing those things. And Stephen Axelman asked me to be the vice chair of Americans United for Peaceful Separation at the Liberty Forum, and I accepted. So I'm going to be serving in that role. It's basically just trying to advise and help and do what we can to leverage to help make this happen. And since then, I've been in communication with the chairman of the Alaskan Independence Party, one of the folks that is working for Puerto Rican independence, and of course have reached out to the successor to Dr. Thomas Naylor, Rob Williams, over at Second Vermont Republic, Vermont Commons, Vermont Independence. I mean, they've got a lot of things going on over there. And there are more in the chute, so it's going to be phenomenal. We're going to have a good time, and it's amazing the similarities that we all have between us, which is something we've highlighted previously. Is that all of us, all these self-determination movements, even globally, have a thread running through them of similarity that essentially says we believe that the best people to govern us just happen to be us and not bureaucrats in some far-flung capital. So really, really nice. So anyway, today I was on a broadcast for the Liberty Block, which is based out of New Hampshire, run by Elliot Axelman, who is also the chairman for the Foundation for New Hampshire Independence, and got to talk about that. I don't have any excerpts because we got the video a bit too late to be able to chop it up a bit. But go out there and look for it. Their Liberty Block on Facebook, and you can find that live stream there. Man, that was kind of a marathon, man. I just kind of was spitting it out. That was awesome. All right, so let me do this before I get to any kind of discussion or videos or anything else, let's take a look at chat, right? Let's see what folks have got to say. Okay, so here's Mr. Collins. Mr. Collins says, I think there's more behind the TNM than just getting Texas free. I'm not sure that's their true intention. Well, Mr. Collins, I don't know who you are, but I will share this with you because we have been very transparent about our mission, which is here. And it is also on the About page on the TNM's website. It says our mission is to secure and protect the political, cultural, and economic independence of the nation of Texas and to restore and protect the constitutional republic and the inherent rights of the people of Texas. You see, that is our mission. That is the sum total of the mission. That has been the mission since November of 2005 when the organization was founded, and it will continue to be our mission. And while some people have a tendency to focus on the political independence aspect of it, and specifically the TEXIT vote, understand that the mission of the organization is holistic in nature. I had a very lengthy conversation today with our local coordinator from Tyler, Christina Drury, who has been doing this phenomenal series at the local groups, at her local group there in Tyler, called the TEXIT Top 10, where she's handling sort of the top 10 issues that people talk about or want to discuss related to TEXIT. And the next one coming up is the monetary system. People want to talk about the money and the financial system. And so we had a very lengthy discussion today about that particular aspect of it. And specifically, as we kind of took a little side path, talked about how some of the countries that got out from under Soviet domination in Eastern Europe that wound up in the EU wound up trading their economic independence they basically ended up giving up their economic independence by signing on to the euro. And adopting the euro as their currency, and because they did that, it removed a great deal of the independence that they had won out from under the Soviet sphere. So, it's a holistic mission. You have to understand political, cultural, and economic independence. You either get all three, or you eventually wind up with none. All right, let me do this. I am going to pause that notification. But anyway, look, if you want to find out more about us, Mr. Collins, whoever you are, definitely feel free to reach out. There were two things that we knew we had to do to make the TNM survive from day one, and that's get big and get transparent, right? And that's essentially what we have done. So we don't have anything to hide. Go talk to whoever you need to talk to. Okay, so let's take this one, man. I like this. You guys are pounding me with questions tonight, and I like those. Let's take this one. Ralph wants to know. Let's show this one on the screen. Ralph wants to know, how do we contact the Election Integrity Task Force? Actually, I have I talked about it last week. And let me throw this graphic on the screen if it is still here. Boom, there it is. If you want to connect with the Election Integrity Task Force right now, if you have any election irregularities you would like to report, anything you've got specifically, be sure to email them to electionfraud@thetnm.org. That's electionfraud@thetnm.org. Or you can reach us through any of the main contact methods on the TNM's website via the 800 number, and we will direct your inquiry appropriately. And then again, as I stated a moment ago, just in case you missed it and came late, if you would like to participate in the work of the Election Integrity Task Force, whether it be what we're going to need out in the field, because we're going to need people in local areas, or if you're perhaps a subject matter expert or have excellent research skills or a data analyst, or whatever it is, hit us up at tnm.me/volunteer. Again, that's tnm.me/volunteer. So now that we got that one squared away, look at this, man. I'm back to answering questions. This is lovely. Okay, so let's move on here. Melissa, okay, this is a good one. Let's take this one. Oh, and a reminder, be sure to drop your questions in chat. Kara is over there monitoring chat right now, and she's grabbing the questions and throwing them in here. So if you have questions, be sure to send them over, okay? All right. Melissa says, I thought Texas was the only state that had the constitutional right to secede. That is interesting because you would be surprised how many times we have to talk about this. We have to go in and debunk it, right? So here's what it boils down to, and this is what people need to understand. When you talk about the constitutional right, okay, most people are thinking about the US Constitution, right? They're thinking about the US Constitution. And what you have to look at is Article 1, Section 10 of the US Constitution, where it lists everything that states are forbidden from doing. Now, beyond that, one of the things you will notice is that it's not in there. Withdrawing from the Union is not in anywhere in Article 1, Section 10. So some people will say, well, because it's not spelled out in the US Constitution, you must not have that right. It's like that's not how this works. States are forbidden from doing certain things as part of the Union. And there's the list. Okay. Article 1, Section 10. But what does the 10th Amendment say? It says that any powers not delegated to the federal government or forbidden to the states are reserved to the states and the people respectively, right? Which means that if the federal government was not expressly given the power or the states were not forbidden, aka it's, anything forbidden in Article 1, Section 10, anything not on that list, that means it's reserved to the states and the people. So where do you have to go look then? Well, because of what is said there, doesn't matter any federal law, even though there's no federal law against it. Doesn't matter what the Supreme Court is because it's non-justiciable, right? It's a political question. So you have to go look at the state constitution. So Texas reserves the right, Article 1, Section 2, is an inalienable right to alter, reform, or abolish our government in any such manner as we may think expedient. Some states have an explicit withdrawal clause. And on the flip side, Nevada has a specific clause in its state constitution forbidding it from leaving the Union, saying that it will never leave the Union. So the fact of the matter is, though, is that even state constitutions can be amended. They can absolutely be amended. So Nevada could go through that process and amend their constitution and withdraw. They just got an extra step. But ultimately, it's always been reserved as a right of the states. So because it's not forbidden in the U.S. Constitution, that right is reserved up to the states, which means it is up to the states and the people in those states alone to make that decision. That's not unique to Texas. That is in fact a right that can be exercised by any state whatsoever if you want to make the constitutional amendment, the constitutional argument. However, understand that even if the U.S. Constitution had an explicit prohibition against it, the fact of the matter is that all the states are sovereign political entities, and ultimately the right of self-government is a fundamental right, a fundamental and an inalienable right. And because it's fundamental and inalienable, the fact of the matter is that the people in those states could decide at any time, regardless of what the federal system says. And I point you simply back to the founders of what became the United States, right? The people in the 13 colonies that signed off on a Declaration of Independence, who I guarantee you the king was not okay with them withdrawing and separating their colonies and establishing them as nation states, but it was done because they had to appeal, as Thomas Jefferson said, to first principles. Or go back to the founders of the Republic of Texas in our Declaration of Independence, where it was obvious Santa Anna didn't want to let them go. They were forbidden from doing what they did, but what they did was they appealed to first principles and essentially said, we have the right to govern ourselves, and we refuse to live under an absolute despotism of someone who has overthrown a constitutional republic and established a military dictatorship. And so we, as Texans, therefore, have established the Republic of Texas and are now independent and self-governing. So that's what it boils down to. So if you're looking at a constitutional right, understand that it doesn't have to be a constitutional right because it is a fundamental right of the people, inalienable, just like the right to keep and bear arms, the right to free speech, the right to worship according to the dictates of your conscience, right? All of those things. It's just as inalienable as those rights. Okay, so I got to tell you, Melissa, that was a good one. Thanks for asking that question. That was really nice. All right, so while we are at the man, we're almost at the like midway point. It's hard to believe. Let me do this. Let me remind you guys that chat is active. And if you have questions, we would love to have them because I will take them. And of course, your comments and everything else. Kara is over there running point. But what I thought I would do is I have been asked about the forum that we had in New Hampshire, that panel discussion. And what I thought I would do is play you just a short excerpt of it, just to show you how universal some of these questions are, right? Just so you can see kind of the universality of the discussion that we're having that is happening related to independence everywhere right now. So here you go. Enjoy this. It's only a few minutes, and I'll be right back with you. Yeah, thanks, Carla. Howdy.
Howdy.
Oh, that won't do it all. Let's try that again. Howdy. Howdy. There we go. Thank you very much. See, now it feels like I'm in a hometown crowd. This is nice. Well, look, I want to just start off by saying this to answer your question. I'm here with you today at this panel on the 186th anniversary of the fall of the Alamo. And, while Pee Wee Herman may remember the Alamo a little bit cliche, understand for Texans and really for all lovers of independence, it should hold a special place. Because there will be people that will tell you that the Battle of the Alamo was about many things, but I will tell you from the words of Colonel Travis himself, who said this. He said that, let the convention therefore go on and make a declaration of independence, and then the world will know and my men will know what we are fighting for. For if a declaration is not made, then my men are willing to lay down their arms and surrender. But under the flag of independence, we are willing to peril our lives 1,000 times. You see, independence is worth fighting for. Yes. And whether that's independence in Texas, or whether that's independence in New Hampshire, or frankly, any place in the world, the right of self-government and self-determination is absolutely worth fighting and dying for. But it's also worth living for. And so, it's one of the reasons that I'm here today with you to shake the hands of the state representatives here who had the intestinal fortitude and the backbone to support letting the people of New Hampshire vote on their independence. Look, here's the bottom line. I've been at this for 25 years, and you get pounded with every criticism, every question, like what's going to happen to my favorite major league sports team. So I'm gonna make a confession to you, is I got tired of answering all those little minutia questions a long time ago. So what I started doing was this. I started asking people, say, look, why don't you answer my question? If Texas was currently a self-governing independent nation among nations, we had control over our own immigration and border policy, we had our own monetary system, our own military, our own foreign policy, our own embassy, our passports, we had our own dadgum Olympic team. Right? We were a self-governing independent nation in every respect. And instead of talking about TEXIT, we were talking about whether or not Texas should join the Union. Knowing everything you know about the federal government right now, would you vote to join the Union? And if the answer is no, if you would not vote to join, then why in the hell would you ever vote to stay? And you would be surprised. I mean, that right there, that turn has helped us get to the point where we know for certain if we have the TEXIT vote tomorrow, we win. And we don't win by a razor-thin margin, we win by a lot, which is one of the reasons that the establishment guys fight so hard to give the people the vote on this issue, because they know we're going to take them to the polls and we're going to spank them because they have no argument as to why we should stay in the Union, or frankly, any state for that matter.
Wow, that's great. I love that. That is fantastic, right? Because you basically put the onus on them. You're like, who would defend anything the federal government's doing?
It's about time they answer some questions, right? They want to dismiss our ideas
off of some minutia like, well, is our major league sports team going to be in the National League? Whatever. It's just always something ridiculous, right? They want to flunk the idea overall over some minutia, and it's really time that they answer the questions. Let those guys make the case for why the union is so great.
Yeah.
And watch those guys squirm.
Yeah. Woo!
Awesome.
Yeah.
Hello. So in order to leave an abuser effectively, you need resources, plans, specifically contingency plans, and strategy. So what resources, strategies, and plans do we have in mind in order to be effective here?
Well, it's like we have to explain a lot. I mean, part of people want to know, okay, they have this view in mind that the day that we have the TEXIT vote, the next day there's a lot of fireworks, we're all hungover, and suddenly it's Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, right? We're all rolling around. I've got a mohawk and wearing a leather thong, and I got, I mean, that's just what they envision, right?
You know, I'm waiting for that moment.
Well, look, $50 will get you a long way. But here's the point, and this is what we have to explain to people. Exiting is not an act. It's a process, right? Everyone focuses on the vote, but it doesn't happen immediately after the vote, right? The vote in and of itself is an expression of political will that then we have to act upon. Because, let's face it, as states, we haven't been independent in quite some time. There are a lot of processes that we have to put in place. There's some infrastructure that has to be built, but here's the good news, is that it's not insurmountable, right? For two reasons. Number one, is effectively all the states are still structured like self-governing independent nations, right? We have our own constitutions, our own governments. All of those agencies, all of that infrastructure exists. So it's not that far of a jump, but here's number two, and I think it should be encouraging. If you pull out a globe and you spin it around and you put your finger on any landmass that's not Antarctica, understand that those people are self-governing independent nations that have been able to figure out every single issue that people are concerned about. So we have the expression of political will as expressed in that vote, and then we begin to act upon that, and it takes whatever time it takes. Unlike Brexit, we're not under a 2-year Article 50 clock, right? So it takes the time that it takes to get the job done and get it done right.
Hi, my name is Jeff, and my question relates to, I think it was some years ago, you heard about it in Barcelona, I believe it was, they had their vote, the referendum, they said, all right, we want to be free. I forget the actual margins there, but it did go forward as, yes, we want to be free, and Spain said, no, screw you. So what is the specifics in terms of, hey, we have the vote?
All right, folks, that was just a little snippet, and we'll get back to that. If you want to watch the full thing, head over to the YouTube channel, either mine or the TNM's YouTube channel, and you check out the full thing. I think we've got both kind of like the super cut of the questions and my answers, and I think we've got the full thing up. If not, it'll be up directly. So we'll get it done, Ricky Tech. But anyway, look, if you're just now joining us, it is Late Night Coffee Talk. I'm Daniel Miller. This is my weekly decompress, where I take a break from doing my work, grab a cup of coffee, and spend some time with you guys, right? Talk about what's on my mind, talk about what's on your mind. And we've already had some great questions tonight, and I am super appreciative. All right, let's get back to it, okay? Let's see what you guys got to say. And by the way, let me go ahead and do this. Thank you to both Carlton and Dean for their $20 super chats. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your support of the work that we're doing here at the TNM. And of course, Carlton, I'm drinking your coffee, bud. Thanks for sending it. And of course, if you'd like to super chat, that is active on the TNM's YouTube channel. Go to youtube.com/Texas NATMOV. That's youtube.com/Texas NATMOV. Or you can click the YouTube link on the TNM's main website at tnm.me. All right, back to your questions and your comments. Marilyn says, I bought Daniel Miller's book, TEXIT. I know that book. Here it is, TEXIT. Thank you very much. And look, if you have read the book, sound off in the chat. Let us know that you read the book. And if you got anything out of it, we'd love to hear what your favorite part was or what you found most interesting. I've been told that we probably should create a kind of a walkthrough of the book, a course based off of the book, and we may be doing that for the TNM. There's a lot that we're working on right now. But you can get it, right? You can go to the TNM's website and pick up your copy of TEXIT, or you can head to my website at danielomiller.com and pick up a copy, or it's on, I believe it's on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. It's, all the major book retailers have it, and it's been good. I've gotten so much interesting feedback off of the book since I've written it, and I can't tell you just how useful it has been just in explaining these things to people. So, Marilyn, I hope you enjoy the book, and looking forward to hearing your feedback. Ben says, election fraud, where do I go to learn more? Well, lucky you. If you go watch the coffee talk from last week, I spent the entire hour talking about some of the issues that we found. And as a matter of fact, if you go read the news release on the TNM's website right now about our formation of an election integrity task force, you'll actually see a link in that story to some of the previous coverage we had done. An article that we had published in 2019 about how at DEF CON, which is it's a convention in Vegas where they focus on sort of technology and hacking and all that sort of thing. But if you go look at DEF CON, that report that came from DEF CON, one of their project challenges during that particular DEF CON was hacking voting machines, right? And what they did was they went, and I think they had 100 different electronic voting machines and were able to hack every single solitary one of them. So our coverage goes back to then. But go check that out. And then again, if any of you missed what we talked about earlier, which was you want to connect with our new election integrity task force, you can do that somewhere right here. There it is. Any election irregularities, you could go to you can email electionfraud@vtnm.org. That's electionfraud@vtnm.org, and we're going to get to you. We're doing this, and I'm going to tell you something. The worst thing for the opposition that we could have done was form this task force and put Claver in charge of it, because he is dogged, he is determined, and he is super passionate about making sure that our right to have free and fair elections, the bedrock of maintaining a constitutional republic. He is going to go after these guys like they're wearing, like a dog, and they're wearing milk-bone underwear. I mean, it's going to be ridiculous, and he's not going to let up, and he's going to call it as he sees it, which means that anyone at any level, by commission or omission, that has had any hand in denying Texans reliable, free, and fair elections is I mean, they're going to be a target for him. So woe unto them. That's all I can say. All right. So back to the chat. Let's see here. We got Ben taken care of. And here's Bad Brad. Bad Brad says, Daniel, watch the mail this week. I sent you a package of coffee. Also, Brad, thank you very much. I'm looking forward to brewing it, tasting it, and drinking it on the broadcast. So thank you very much. Okay. So this is good. Maryland's got this question. Have we got anyone that will author a new House bill for independence? Right. So, there have been some discussions. I would like to say that we have already gotten it locked down, but I can't make it official yet. It was some preliminary conversations, all in the affirmative, knowing that Kyle is not going to be in the legislature next session because he chose not to run again. We've talked to a particular state representative, but we have to remember some of these things are not over, right? Some of these races that are happening are not over. Right? We've got candidates that either did not have an opponent in the primaries and will be advancing to the general election, or they're in the runoffs, like Raul, right? In that Senate district race. Additionally, we've got two races for the House that are still up in the air. Well, technically 3 if you count Mike Olcott, right, who didn't sign the pledge. But two that are still kind of up in the air. Ocont's in a runoff, but you've got these two races where Tom Glass and Andy Hopper have both filed for recounts. If Tom Glass wins his recount, he's in the runoff. And if Andy Hopper wins his recount, which there's only 80 some odd votes separating him and Lynn Stuckey, Hopper's going because he won't have any real opposition in the generals. I don't even know if anybody filed to run as a Democrat in that race. So we're still in play, folks. This is still in play for us. So those of you that are kind of thinking, well, that primary is, it's not for us. There's a whole slate of candidates. Let's not forget that every candidate for agriculture commissioner signed the pledge, like every single one, including the winner. So that being said, we've still got candidates in play, but beyond a shadow of a doubt, I believe that we've got it nailed down. We're not ready to make an announcement yet, but as we get a little past March the 1st to kind of get a little bit, I'm guessing a couple more weeks, then we'll be able to announce that it's going to go down. Who's going to file and all that, and it will substantially be the same bill. Other than we're definitely going to not allow Ledge Council to tweak the question that goes on the ballot. That was one of the biggest problems that we had with House Bill 1359 was that the Ledge Council actually changed the ballot language, which had been carefully constructed and crafted, and we were prepared. We're working with Kyle to present a committee substitute that fixed that. But we're going to make sure when we go in and file this go around that we don't have that issue right out of the gate. Okay. So anyway, thank you for that question, Marilyn. Just kind of bear with us for a couple of weeks. We're already working that issue, and we should be hopefully soon ready to make an announcement of who it's going to be. But look, it's full steam ahead for us. I mean, we literally have not stopped working at all. And, granted, there are some folks out there that decided that this election was a little too much for them and they joined the Moses Rose Brigade. But the rest of us, the vast majority, the 95, 98%, whatever it is, that actually love Texas and understand the importance of Texas independence and understand the mission of the TNM, we haven't stopped working. We've been busting our butts. There was no time to lick wounds or mourn or cry or suck our thumbs or anything else because we're still fighting, right? This war is still going on. And, some people, man, what do you do? Not my problem. I'm here for the winners and I'm here to win. So let's go do that. All right. Let's take over here to chat. Oh yeah. Let me do this too. Let me scroll down here because there was something else I was going to share with you. Boo, boo, boo. There it is. Nope. No, it's not. Oh, this is what it was. See, I'm off notes all of a sudden. So today, while I was on, and I know that there was a reason I mentioned this earlier, when I was doing that interview on Liberty Block, hosted by Stephen Axelman, who I talked about earlier, one of the questions that I got, because they have it's more of a panel discussion, but one of the questions I got was, when do we think we're going to be able to shift, or do we think we've shifted that Overton window to really have this being discussed? Now, granted, the gentleman who asked the question lives in Virginia, and what I had to say is that fundamentally, I disagreed with the premise of the question. Because obviously we wouldn't be pushing so hard for a referendum if we thought there was a snowball's chance in hell we'd lose in a fair fight, right? But I shared a piece of information with him that he didn't realize. And, it was this.
This is a yes or no question. So quickly, we'll just go through each one of you. We'll start with you, Mr. Huffines. Yes or no, do you support a referendum on the ballot that says, quote, the state of Texas shall reassert its status as an independent nation?
Yes.
Mr. Harrison.
Yeah, I like that.
Mr. Prather.
Yes.
Mr. West.
Yes.
Yeah, so that was the only way that was the only clip that I had of it already loaded in the deck. But you see the point here, which is this has been a repeated issue in that so many people don't know that this discussion is happening in a very public way. Right. And yesterday I had an interview with a reporter from the Dallas Morning News. I know, don't be scared because I wasn't. Who was just shocked and amazed that he had come across the Texas First Pledge and that there were so many candidates that had signed it. Right. And this goes back to the story that was initially proposed by James Berrigan at the Texas Tribune, like almost 2 months ago, I think it was, about how all of Abbott's main challengers had expressed support for a TEXIT vote, and how I had done it, and I had to let James know that it wasn't just us, that there was a whole slew of candidates out there for running for statewide office, for state level offices, for local offices, from the state house to the schoolhouse, as we like to say, that have pledged their support for letting the people of Texas vote on this issue and carrying out their will. And it reminded me again of the struggle that we have, and one of the reasons we say it's so important for each and every one of you to open your mouth, right, and to have this conversation with your friends and with your neighbors and with your coworkers, and be very public about this, because if we leave this up to the mainstream media, if we leave it up to the mainstream media, they're going to be the ones that tell our story. And we need to be the ones to tell our story. And frankly, what we found is they don't tell our story at all. And if they do tell it, they tell it wrong. And it's one of the things that I talked about with that Dallas Morning News reporter, which is the fact that, he's like, well, why haven't I seen more of this? I looked for news coverage and didn't find any. I said, well, don't ask me, ask your colleagues. I don't have any control over that. This is something your colleagues need to talk about. Why did the Texas Tribune spike this story? I'm fairly certain James Berrigan probably wrote a story, although he is not a fan of ours, right? If the vote came up, he would vote no. But I can almost guarantee it was an editorial decision to spike the story, because we heard about it when certain reporters, and who will remain nameless, left their news outlets. They told us specifically that their news editors had spiked stories on what the TNM was doing and how the TEXIT issue was growing. They spiked them. They saw them. They knew what the implication would be, and they immediately threw them in the trash, right? Much like when that dipstick down there in Austin decided to run their little truth package or whatever it is to talk about how independence was against the law and unconstitutional, and they never call us. They never talk to us, or like the book that was written by Stephen Marsh. And I can't call the title of it, but you'll know it. It's written from a progressive perspective on the issue of states separating. And apparently, and I didn't even realize this until Stephen Axelman told me in New Hampshire, that I'm talked about extensively in that book. And Stephen Axelman wanted to know if the author had ever reached out and talked to me. And the answer is no, right? So if you want to understand what's going, it's not that TEXIT's not happening. It's happening. It's happening right now, right? And I had to remind the gentleman today on the Liberty Block. We had Ted Cruz, widely publicized on a taping of his podcast at Texas A&M, was asked the TEXIT question. And he didn't say no. He said, I'm not ready yet, but here are my criteria. And he lists off these criteria, and they all just happen to be policy propositions that the Democrats are actually working on, like federalizing elections and things of that nature. All things that could literally within days be our political reality, right? And he said if any of those tripwires are there, he's on board. When Chip Roy, a U.S. congressman, stands on the floor of the U.S. House of Representatives and asks the question, if we can't get protection on our border, then what in the hell did we join the union for? When you can get on the floor and ask that, or when you have candidates at every level, viable candidates that are expressing publicly their belief that at a minimum, the people of Texas should be able to vote on whether or not we should reassert our status as an independent nation. That's huge. And understand, if that sort of thing was happening anywhere else in the world, it would be featured on the 24-hour news cycle. it would be a bombshell. But time after time after time, as the TNM has advanced and pushed forward and expanded the support for TEXIT, as we have hit milestone after milestone after milestone, the media stays mute, or they distort, or they lie and communicate that out as gospel, right? Or they act as the opposition, not as reporters and journalists, but as the effective and active opposition to try to discourage people, to try to knock them out of the support box. So, today, really, the last few days, last couple of weeks have really reaffirmed the necessity for each of us to get out there and spread the word. I mean, you would think about this. I mean, the president of the Texas Nationalist Movement, which is inarguably the third, the largest political advocacy organization outside of the two major political parties at this time, right? The president of the TNM runs for lieutenant governor of Texas. That should have been major news, but it wasn't, right? I mean, we're bigger than a third party, right? I mean, that's just the bottom line. So the fact of the matter is it's not, but it is a pattern that we have had over and over and over. It's amazing because I heard this today on social media, how people were posting about the election. They were posting about TEXIT. They were posting about these things, could get almost no views, no likes, no shares, none of those things. Now, all of a sudden, views, likes, and shares are working now that we're past the primaries, right? They're getting tons of engagement. So what's happening here? Well, here's what I know. I know that they can't keep us from having conversations with each other, with our neighbors. We're not at the point yet where face-to-face conversation can be censored or banned, where we get together as people in groups or in one-on-one conversations and discuss TEXIT, right? So the bottom line is that is, for us, what is important to make this happen. If you want this to happen, that is part of the engagement that you must be a part of, is you must begin to have these conversations. Plug in, right? This is one of the reasons that we're telling everyone to go out and in the TNM join a local group, right? You can. I'm going to tell you, if you're relying on social media or email, because we're all fighting TNM emails and all these emails about this being dumped by the ISPs into spam boxes. Your best bet is to go plug into a local group, so that way at least on a regular time, on a regular day, you can plug in and you can get the straight skinny from the organization. Because if if the ISPs dunk our emails and social media blocks our posts and never shows them to you, right? Or mainstream media refuses to cover what we all know as the historic fight for Texas independence, then that is your opportunity to go plug in, to go to one of the local groups. And if you don't have a local group, boom, organize one, right? Because there are other TNM supporters in your area that are probably wanting to cut through this BS too. And they want to connect and they want to organize and they want to be a part of this. And this is a key part, right? Don't think that this is just some pitch for you to come out there and put your butt in a chair, right? If all we needed was to put butts in chairs, we'd go hire a bunch of homeless people, right? What we need is Texas nationalists to get together and have these conversations, because that sort of integration, that community, that connection is so vitally important for the next step. For if we are to win this next battle related to the election integrity and the TEXIT vote and the legislature and everything else, the big plan that we're implementing right now, a key component of that is making sure that we can adequately communicate and effectively communicate with all of our supporters, which we have been prevented from doing. And so understand that if the technology fails, what's left to us is the wetware, AKA you getting in your car or on your bicycle or on your horse and buggy or whatever your mode of transport is, and going to a place perhaps once a month, maybe more often, depending on how y'all decide to get together, and get in a room full of other Texas nationalists and fill your head full of information that you need and work out a plan of action and then go carry that plan of action out. And it's a good thing. We've got leadership. We've got local leaders that are doing this. And if you want to be one of those, we will teach you, we will train you, we will support you, we will help you do that. But you got to put in the work. As I've said time and time again, there are two things in this life you control. That is your attitude and your effort. If you can get your attitude straight and you put in 100% effort, then you will always be proud of the results with no regrets. It's just the way it's got to be. All right, folks. Well, I am 3 minutes to wrapping this bad boy up. Let me do one cursory examination of the chat to see if there is anything else that I am missing. Let's find it. See if we got a quick one. Keith is talking about a Texas flag that was taken down on I-20 in Dallas and replaced with a huge Ukrainian flag. I don't believe that any foreign flag should be flying on Texas soil. That's just the way I am. I'm decidedly old school. Let's see here. This one, I can't read the name, says, if Texas was independent again, would it use the old design from the original republic, like currency, flags, uniforms, etc.? That is entirely up to us. We're not trying to return back to 1836. We're just trying to get self-government from 2022 and beyond. So it's going to be obviously up to the people. Man, there's so many questions that would be great to get to, but save those up. We'll get to those next week. In the meantime, let's get ready to wrap this bad boy up. And here is my final word for the week, because I still got coffee and I still got work to do. This stuff's not going to get itself done. I want to remind you as we get ready to wrap up, if you are not a member of the Texas Nationalist Movement, I'm going to encourage you right now to become a member. Head over to tnm.me/join. That is tnm.me/join, or connect with somebody in the chat. All of us in the movement as supporters and members get our own ID. And if you use our ID, then we get credit for when you join. Notice I don't put mine on here because I've already gotten credit for so many dadgum memberships and supporters that I don't need it. I just leave it to somebody else. So head over to tnm.me/join or get with somebody that's on the chat or that you know online or whoever introduced you or brought you to this. Additionally, if you are already a declared supporter, head over to tnm.me/action. That's tnm.me/action. Learn what you can do. Take action today. And a reminder, go join a local group, tnm.me/local groups. Find one near you. And remember, we always are going to need volunteers, right? So if you are ready to take Texas back, we need you to volunteer, right? Get in the game. And somewhere Beverly's going to hear this and she's going to chuckle because I say it all the time. Sam Houston did not win San Jacinto with a bunch of cheerleaders, right? He needed soldiers. He needed people. You don't win games games are not won or lost by how many people are in the stands. It's how many points you put on the board, how much territory you gain, right? So go volunteer. We need players. We need soldiers for the Army. tnm.me/volunteer. And one final reminder, that launch of the Election Integrity Task Force, thanks to Claver for agreeing to head that up. You can drop an email over to electionfraud@thetnm.org. That is electionfraud@thetnm.org. All right, folks, it is that time to wrap up. So be sure when this is all over with, share, get as many eyeballs on this as you possibly can, because that's what it's going to take. I don't want to be redundant or beat a dead horse, but obviously if it is going to be about getting the word out, it's going to be up to us. And frankly, it's going to be up to you to spread that word. So tonight, I leave you with the hopeful words of Sam Houston, as I do every week, when he said that Texas will again lift its head and stand among the nations. I believe that time is now. And the question is, will you stand with her? Good night, everyone.
People in power, whether red or blue, they could not care less about Texas, me and you. They created this give me country that don't value hard work. For a Texan to survive, all we need are some seeds and dirt. Texan rise, don't you hear your call? Got to save your country. family and we value our community. Gladly lend a helping hand to a neighbor in need. And we don't believe that government should provide for all of society's needs. No, it's the pride of a Texan to give to others voluntarily. Texan, rise, don't you hear your call? Gotta save your country, for it's long gone. Texan, rise, don't you hear your call? Gotta save your country, for it's long gone. They like our tax dollars and they love our natural resources. They don't want to see us driving trucks, they'd rather see us riding horses. And now they want to ban our guns, you know, especially the ones that look scary. But may I remind you of the Gonzales Cannon and the Alamo heroes we buried. Texan, rise, don't you hear your call? Got to save our country, for it's long gone. Texan, rise, don't you hear your call? Got to save our country, for it's long gone. This last verse is straight from the Texas Constitution, Article 1, Section 1 and 2. Look it up. Texas is an independent state, yet presently we suffer. We no longer possess the right to locally self-govern. And now it's time as a people in which all political power is inherent. And in such manner we find expedient, we reform or abolish our government. I said, Texan, rise, don't you hear your call? Got to save your country,